Alright, so hey guys, in this video I'm going to be talking about mathematics, not the specifics of any field of mathematics. For instance, I'm not going to be talking about specifically vectors or specifically integration or specifically calculus or specifically imaginary numbers. I'll be talking about the foundational ideas of mathematics. So the first question I guess people would ask is, what is math? And math can be basically anything, right? What is language? Language is a way to express ideas, to say what your ideas are that are going in your head, and for others to understand the ideas that are going on in their head. In the same way, mathematics does this about topics that are only specific to mathematics. There is no way to use the English language really to kind of define what integration means. In order to understand what integration is, you have to have a visual image, and you have to have learned the visual image that associates integration or even derivatives to certain symbols, right? The whole equation of a derivative, f of x plus h minus f of x over h, limit as h goes to 0, is a concept that if you just read it in terms of English, it's gibberish. However, when you use the language of mathematics to do it and you imagine in your head the image without the language of English, because you would have to describe, take this, take that, blah, 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 blah. Okay. That is where the math separates from the language. That is where if I say I want the ground to be hard, how hard do I want? Let's say I'm talking about there's a bridge, and I want the bridge to be a certain hardness so it can withstand a certain weight of people walking over it. Well, I need mathematics to describe this. I mean, even the numbers, whether you write them in numerical form or you write the numbers in terms of, the word form of the numbers, you're referring to the numbers, right? So if I need 65 kilograms per square inch of force, strong to withstand these people, that's how much I need. So in this way, mathematics is a language. In another way, mathematics can be anything, and in the most fun way, mathematics is a game. Right? When we talk about mathematics, we always talk about problems. Right? Mathematics always comes with problems. It's very rarely where you just use it to describe a painting. Alright, there's this inner understanding of this is what it means, and I can use this to solve a such problem. That's how most mathematics is tested, is can you use your knowledge, the understanding that you have, can you use it to solve a problem? And then it becomes like chess. Mastering each type of mathematics gives you certain types of chess moves. For instance, if I know about derivatives and I study the mental processing of derivatives, the mental action of derivatives, then on a derivatives problem, I'm going to be comfortable that I know how to checkmate using the rook and the king. If I have never practiced checkmating with the rook and the king together, then if it's my first time, some people can figure it out, some people can't. So that is why you need to practice mathematics. In a way, mathematics is music, right? You practice. And we're not talking about the pure way of mathematics. If you're talking about mathematics, it has to be tied to the way that it is learned and the way that it is researched, right? You can't talk about basketball and talk about basketball in the old days because that doesn't exist anymore. You can't be talking about philosophy and be talking about philosophy in such a manner that Socrates did it, because simply that way of learning doesn't exist anymore. We have to talk about modern society and the way that you're going to encounter math. And when you're encountering math, right, you're going to be talking about the ways that your instructor shows you and you're expected to be able to replicate. Alright, that's teaching you mathematics. And in essence, this means, like in chess, the teacher shows you how do I checkmate with a bishop and a knight. This is a very complex problem in chess. Some people, they don't even, I never know how to checkmate with a horse and a bishop. So for me, when I play, I try to avoid that. But when you study, you have to study the parts that your teacher is going to cover, right? If the teacher says you have to, in group theory, you have to know how to think about, for instance, what is a group, how to prove that something is a group. You have to know how to prove something is a group. You have to know how to arrive at that checkmate, right? It's very simple. When we talk about mathematics, we cannot take mathematics back to the old days. We cannot put mathematics in a way that is not, reasonable. So when we talk about knowledge of mathematics, we're talking about studying habits as well, right? When we're talking about, are you at a university level in terms of mathematics? And that's not talking just about your understanding of derivatives and integration and linear algebra. We're talking about, do you have the skills to study? That becomes part of mathematics as well. So, in this way, when we talk about mathematics, it's like music, right? It's a performance. Your performance is on the test, right? You go out there and you study, you practice. However you practice is up to you, however works for you. And then what shows is on your performance on assignments. These are your problem sets, is given pretty much across all fields of mathematics. You're going to get a problem set over several instances in the term where you're going to have a set that you're going to have to complete correctly for full marks and incorrectly for partial marks. And then you have tests where you go to a specific location and you do the live performance, right? You go there with what you know and you express, right? You play what you can play. And based on how well you play the music, and it's the same music for every single person, you get a mark, you get a grade, and that becomes the grade of your performance. It becomes the grade of what you did on the course. So in this way, mathematics has become much like music. Mathematics, of course, is also art. For some, for most at a higher level. At the beginning, you might not see it. At a higher level, you certainly will. Mathematics is an art. We're talking about the beauty of mathematics. We're talking about solutions that are beautiful, right? Just like in chess, there's beautiful moves. In mathematics, there's beautiful proofs. A proof is something fundamental in math where you have to show that something is true, and there's a lot of things that are put into developing your ability to prove things. Alright, this is what you're going to have to be able to do, and this is something that you're going to have to be able to do well, is prove things, and this becomes like an art. Right? How do I, in a way, mathematics is cooking. Right? How do I show something works and connect different dots? If I see a problem here, can I take it over there? If I see a problem and they ask me for some random thing from another field of mathematics, can I take that and bring it in? That's why in math at university, there's going to be prerequisites. All right, you're going to be expected, if you're taking, for instance, a calculus course, you're going to be expected to know. If you're taking an advanced calculus course, you're going to be expected to know, basic calculus. You're going to be expected to know linear algebra. You're going to be expected to know vector calculus before you take the advanced calculus course, because it's expected that you've played around with your basic things, right? If we're talking about playing Chopin Fantasy Impromptu, you can have a very talented young man play it with no prerequisite, with no previous experience. But of course, most teachers would prefer if you were at least at the ARCT level or at the grade 10 level, where you have done sufficient scales, where your finger nimbleness is not just, okay, go ahead with your fingers being really floppy. No, you have to go in and you go, okay, I'm going to have, 5 years of experience in scales where my fingers are nimble, and when I go play Fantasy Impromptu, it's not going to be, me struggling so much that I'm going to quit. That's your prerequisites. Alright, so that's all over what I'm talking about in terms of mathematics. It's a very brief introduction, and it's not a sufficient introduction to express all of mathematics in one video. But I hope that you've understood the essence of mathematics, okay? The different parts as it connects to the real mathematics, because the real mathematics, no matter what level, it's in university. Right? You're no longer going to be working independently and you just somehow there's random teachers here and there, and mathematics nowadays is done in university. It's done in school. Right? And the highest level of math is done in university. If you're at the top, you go to MIT, you go to Harvard, you go to Princeton. If you're not at the top, you go lower, you go to Western, you go to University of Toronto, you go to York University, McMaster, Waterloo, for mathematics. And the teaching is pretty much the same everywhere. Right? You go there and you have tests, you have problem sets, and you have the classes. And basically, the whole thing generally is just you trying to outsmart your teacher. That's it, basically. They play their moves, and you play your moves, and you make sure that you're ahead of the bunch. For me, at least, that's what it is. It's just me trying to gouge what the teacher is going to do, outsmart them. But at the end of the day, they're on your. Most teachers, they do believe that they are on your side, which is what should be happening. Some teachers, they believe I'm not on your side. I'm testing you. I'm not helping you be better. I'm trying to see if you're worth it. Those teachers, you have to deal with them as is. Most teachers, they're like, I'm on your team. I'm trying to help you. Some teachers, they're like, okay, I'm not trying to help you. I'm just trying to test you. I'm trying to see if you're worth my time. I'm trying to see if you're going to break, if you're going to snap, if you're going to fail. Those teachers, you have to deal with accordingly. But some teachers, most are pretty nice.